This morning could be the beginning of the end after President Trump said the Pentagon's work in Iran could be over soon after just a week and a half of overwhelming U.S. military force. U.S. Central Command said it has struck more than 5,000 targets since the start of Operation Epic Fury.
We've carried out some of the most powerful and complex military strikes and maneuvers the world has ever seen. We're achieving major strides toward completing our military objective. And some people could say they're pretty well complete.
Mark Boyle joining us now from the live desk with more on this. It's kind of what we expected, obviously. We knew this was not going to last very long.
Well, naysayers were saying, oh, this is going to be forever. The president really came out in the very beginning, Jan, and said, look, it's going to be a couple of weeks. We're going to knock them out. And that's exactly what he says they are doing. However, Iran making it clear they're not going to go away quietly. Some new video in the newsroom showing the Iran drone strikes overnight. These drones, however, were intercepted by the British Royal Air Force. This happened over Jordan and Bahrain. Now, more drone attacks also being reported this morning by the UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Kuwait. Nations like Australia are dedicating more resources to the region this morning. They're sending more missiles and surveillance planes to the UAE to help stop with those Iranian strikes. Back here at home, the president says our military is really well set. They have a handle on the situation and suggests that things could be winding down very soon.
It's the beginning of building a new country, but they have no Navy, they have no Air Force, they have no anti-aircraft equipment. It's all been blown up. They have no radar. They have no telecommunications, and they have no leadership.
Now, this morning, we are getting some new data from CENTCOM about the mission since it started. Here are some of the numbers right here for you. 5,000 targets hit, 50 ships have been destroyed. Those numbers likely to continue to go up. IRGC buildings exploded, intelligence sites hit, air defense systems knocked out completely, and multiple Navy ships and submarines blasted out of the water. We're expecting a major update from the Department of War later this morning. We'll bring you that live here on the National News Desk as the U.S. offensive in the Middle East continues right now.
All right, Mark, thank you. Also this morning, global markets around the world surging after President Trump vowed to keep shipping lanes open in the Strait of Hormuz. Last night, President Trump did warn Iran if they tried to choke off oil supplies, the U.S. would respond with force 20 times stronger than anything they've seen so far.
We're looking to keep the oil prices down. We went artificially up because of this excursion into a very positive thing. I mean, this was an excursion that a lot of people wouldn't have done. I knew oil prices would go up if I did this, and they've gone up probably less than I thought they'd go up. But I don't think anybody thought we were going to be this quickly successful. This was a military success, the likes of which people haven't seen.
And the markets responded. Oil prices dropped on Friday. The price per barrel was around $90 before spiking to more than $115 over the weekend. Well, now the price per barrel back down to around $88. That's a dramatic swing in just days, but even with crude prices dropping, we could still see a temporary bump at the pump since retail gas prices do lag behind the market. Right now, the average price per gallon, about $3.54, up from $3.11 this time last week. Iran named a new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, the son of the late Ayatollah, as the war with the U.S. and Israel enters its second week. President Trump says the new leader won't last long without U.S. approval, while Israel has warned any successor who continues the fight will become a target. Joining us now to discuss is retired Air Force Brigadier General John Teichert. Good morning to you, General. Great to have you as always.
Good morning, Jan.
Turning the Ayatollah's son to take over in the middle of a war. What does this tell you about really the stability of the regime, and how does Israel's warning that any successor could be eliminated change really the calculus inside Tehran?
Jan, this was clearly an act of continuity and defiance by the existing regime. And when we think about possible regime change, there are two mechanisms for that. And one of them is an opposition figure rising up from inside the regime. Clearly, that's not the case here. He is a hardliner, and I don't expect that we're going to see any change from the regime from within with a guy like that at the top as the new supreme leader.
Do we actually know where Mojtaba Khamenei is right now? I mean, both his parents were killed, his wife, his son. Some question if he's even alive.
Jan, we don't, and we do know that we have exquisite intelligence as far and as best as we can in this situation. But really, all the regime needs to do is outlast us. They just need to survive. And so, regardless of whether he is alive or dead, at least the indication is from the regime to the outside public that they are still in charge. And if they can wait us out, then we will never achieve the political objective of regime change or unconditional surrender.
Well, from a military standpoint, how difficult is it to run a regime when the man at the top is the high value target?
Jan, it's very difficult, but I think from the very beginning, we have destroyed their command and control and their leadership element. I think a lot of the conflict or the activity from Iran you've seen in the last couple of days has been independent battalions and brigades doing what they think is best because there is no leadership communication. But again, all they need to do in order to win is to survive. And I think right now they're in survival mode. And even if that means that the supreme leader can't actually command and control his forces, he's okay with that as long as the regime continues to outlast the United States.
Meantime, the president did say we're closer to ending this campaign now, Operation Epic Fury. What are the signs this campaign is actually getting close to its objectives from a military standpoint?
Yeah, Jan, so I think there's an interesting parsing here of the military objective, which has always been to destroy Iran's ability to project power and to threaten others. We're very clearly and successfully achieving and accomplishing that. You see fewer drones and fewer missiles and a destroyed Navy. And I think those are good indications that we are getting close to that objective. And then the president can make a decision. Does he continue on with a political objective of regime change, or does he take an off-ramp and declare success based on military objectives? And I think right now, especially with oil price spikes, he's considering the off-ramp option, and we'll see in the next few days.
What do you think about that? You agree with that?
Well, I think that it is important for the United States to get a win, to make sure that we've stopped the ability, at least in the short term, for Iran to project power. And, you know, they have this large proxy network that is now decimated. They have a ballistic missile fleet that is now shredded. They have a nuclear program that is likely still in rubble from June. And I think that gives us 5 to 10 years where Iran is not a major threat to humanity anymore. The problem is that no doubt the day the war stops, they're going to start rebuilding. And without regime change, then this is a good win, but it's not a permanent win.
Well, you know, we're seeing this now because Iran's using the Strait of Hormuz to try to disrupt, you know, that shipping choke point. So from a military standpoint, let's talk about how real that threat is and what would it take to make sure it remains open?
Well, Jan, clearly it hasn't remained open. That you see oil prices spike because a lot of tankers are not transiting. And I think there's two parts to that. And number one, I think it sounds a little flippant, but the best thing we can do is win. And when I say win, it means achieve the military objectives of decreasing Iran's ability to threaten us and project power. But number two, it's time to start dusting off the Ronald Reagan playbook from 1983 of reflagging tankers and escorting tankers and creating an insurance market for those tankers. The good news is that our allies and partners are starting to indicate they're willing to help us with the convoys and the escorts. And we need to start doing that immediately to give security to the oil market.
Very quickly before I let you go, retired General David Petraeus was calling for sanctions on Russia after reports showed that Moscow was sharing intelligence with Iran, something he says could explain what he said was improved accuracy of some missile and drone attacks. How much would that kind of support actually matter on the battlefield? And what message does it send if Russia is helping Iran, but the U.S. and Israel are still dominating?
Jan, I think part of the conversation between President Trump and Putin yesterday was, Putin, you must stop this because it's counter to his interests in Ukraine. But it does have a difference that good intel is a key to military success. And I think some of those drone and missile attacks and the deadliness of them is because Russia has been providing that intel, and it must stop, or we're going to leverage sanctions like Petraeus suggests against Russia in Ukraine.
All right, General, always appreciate your insight. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you, John.
Really appreciate your time.